I think that Canada needs to be more action oriented. So the Trump administration has made it quite clear. So the other day we had Commerce Secretary nominee Howard Lutnick, and he was speaking to a U.S. Senate hearing. He made it pretty clear what the Americans are planning to do. So he says here that there's going to be basically a two-phase implementation of the tariffs. They're going to have an emergency action that will be implemented as early as Feb 1, which is this Saturday. And the purpose of that is to mitigate the fentanyl crisis and to stop the flow of deadly drugs into the United States. And then they said that they're also looking to study and implement something on on April 1st. This was what the executive order on day one of Trump's administration focused on, which is, we're going to study something and see if we can come up with a better tax policy and tariff policy. So that's phase 2. Let's play this clip. We have this clip of Commerce Secretary nominee Howard Lutnick.
The big tariff view is going to be studied, and the president launched that in an executive order where he asked the Commerce Department and the USTR to study the tariff model long term. The short term issue is illegal migration and, worse even still, fentanyl coming into this country and killing over 100,000 Americans. There's no war we could have that would kill 100,000 Americans. The president is focused on ending fentanyl coming into the country. You know that the labs in Canada are run by Mexican cartels. So this tariff model is simply to shut their borders with respect America. If we are your biggest trading partner, show us the respect, shut your border, and end fentanyl coming into this country. So it is not a tariff per se. It is an action of domestic policy. Shut your border and stop allowing fentanyl into our country, killing our people. So this is a separate tariff to create action from Mexico and action from Canada. And as far as I know, they are acting swiftly. And if they execute it, there will be no tariff. And if they don't, then there will be. But it's an action-oriented model. That's not the ordinary tariff. The ordinary tariffs need to be studied and examined, and that will start, as the EO said, in April.
So we're talking about two tariffs here, and he says that if there's swift action, we won't bring in the tariff on Feb 1. So in that regard, what Danielle Smith is saying is absolutely right, that we need to take swift action here. We need to show the Americans that we're serious. We don't want fentanyl in our country either. We don't want terrorists in our country either. We have 3 days here, gentlemen, to try to avoid, economy crushing tariffs here. What do you think we can do?
Well, I think one thing that is worth noting as well is the border issue goes both ways. Now, I am on the idea that, yes, that something definitely needs to be done on that front. But, we just saw as well the big cocaine bust that happened in Toronto there with the $83 million worth of cocaine being seized. Was it more?
Oops, we can't hear you there, Jonathan.
Go ahead. So with that, either way, things are going both directions. Even a lot of the illegal firearms that are in Canada, it was the Peel Regional Police said 90% of the illegal firearms they come into contact with come from America. And the other 10%, they just don't know because the serial numbers are scrubbed. However, they also believe those come from America as well. So I am of the mind that Danielle Smith has the right approach, which is a diplomatic approach and going, hey, this border issue goes both ways, and maybe we need to stop. Well, both governments have facilitated the open border policies for the last 4 or 5 years. And so we need to first deal with that issue that those policies have created. But that's going to take a team approach, not necessarily just America pretending like there's nothing on their end and that it's all coming from Canada south. It's going both ways for sure.
Yeah, I agree with you. Obviously, we're on the same page there. But in terms of what can we do in the next few days, I'm of the opinion we're sort of set up for failure here because government moves slow. It's what it is. We have increased the size of government, direct federal workforce under Trudeau by 42%. But this country hasn't gotten any better. Nothing's moved along. We're not more efficient. We're actually just burning more money. So when you look at an issue like this, that agreed team approach, and it's going to be it's It's complex. It's not just. I agree with the idea of a borders are obviously if it's going to be liberal. I think there's going to be some issues there. But that's only one step, right? These people are looking for a solution to stop this thing, which is all the fentanyl trafficking and the illegal migration. We can't do that in 3 days. We can't turn that tap off or on that quickly because our government doesn't really have a handle on these things. So, unfortunately, I think whatever our best efforts are going to fall short no matter what. And I do think we have sort of a foundational issue here because our our federal government is trying to go to war with Trump over this, and it's an unwinnable tariff war. They're a much bigger player. There's no chance. So I think that their perception of the whole thing is still off. Like I think 10%, 20% of their effort, like and not about mobilization, but just in terms of how they're politicking. 20% of the politicking effort is towards the border and the fentanyl, and the other 80% is about managing these tariffs and this tariff war. I think their efforts are going in the wrong direction in a lot of ways for something that's very complex and will take more than 3 days to solve. So I think we're between a rock and a hard place here, to be honest with you.
Well, and I just want to add one perspective there as well, is that you've got Doug Ford and Trudeau both claiming that they're ready to put forward pandemic style spending of stimulus in order to save the economy, right? Well, okay, to Jonathan's point about it being 20% of the focus being on the border, I'd say it's almost even less than that, because if they put 1.4 billion towards the border security, and then on the other aspect, they're talking about tens of billions into stimulus spending. So they're saying,
right,
this is what we're willing to allot for a trade war. This is what we're willing to allot for the actual problem.